One of the coolest things about the Bible is how much it actually applies to history. I'm sure that you've heard some of these things recently about the Bible actually being more accurate than the things that we used to think. Let's put a pin in that. I want to share with you a really cool concept. See, the Roman soldiers used to get wheat rations and they would make bread from it. But either as a form of punishment or whenever there was a famine, they would receive barley. And they didn't like it when they got barley rations because you can't put yeast to barley and cause it to rise, meaning it is unleavenable. So if you notice, the barley loaves that the multitudes were fed with the loaves and the fishes, they were loaves of barley bread. Now Jesus tells us, again, remember, whenever he was in the desert being tempted, he was hungry, and the devil came to tempt him when he was hungry. Okay, and there is where we hear, oh, Jesus, why don't you take this stone and make it bread? In other words, I want you to take this stumbling block and turn it into doctrine, because remember, whenever he's talking about the leaven of the Pharisees, he's speaking about doctrine. He's talking bread and doctrine are the same thing. So when Satan says, Jesus uses parables. Can Satan use parables in the Bible too? When Satan says, turn this stone into bread, he's asking Jesus perhaps, turn this stone into bread that is leavened so that when people read it, they fall into a trap and they can't receive their salvation. Okay, Jesus said no. But think about it. Whenever the multitudes were in that same position and they were hungry, Jesus made sure to feed them with unleavened bread. There is something very important about those parables that I'm still trying to understand. Because remember, in Matthew 16, when his disciples finally understand that when he talks about the leaven of the Pharisees, he's speaking of doctrine, they know this because they remember something about the number of baskets of fragments that were taken up. So there is a deep mystery about this parable that you and I do not yet understand. And I assure you, brother, I assure you, sister, that it has something to do with you following Paul's Gospels instead of the true one. Glory to the King.